Tony D and Little Joan with a surprise Piney podcast, all things South Jersey. This one isn't going to be too newsy. I've got more kind of stuff that I do on the Lotus Eaters to tell you about. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books. Speaking of the Pines, it's the Pineys, books 1 through 9, available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free, and there's an audiobook for book 1. Links are in the description. Now, a couple of quick hot topics. Comedy returns to Point Pleasant, so look for that at Jenkinson's at 300 Ocean Ave North. Also, there is now a pork roll donut. Top that donut. It sounds disgusting. It really does. I don't like to mix my sweets with my savories all that often. Shut up, Joan. You just went walkies. You could chill out. You could chill out. Anyhow, that's the pork roll donut. And one of the cool things I stumbled across in my travels of doing research on the internet, this was an article called 13 Things You Might Not Know About the Pine Barrens. And one of those things is the reputation of the Pineys and how it kind of got started. That it got started in the negative, let's say. In 1913, a researcher named Elizabeth Kite published a report called The Pineys that included tales of heavy drinking, livestock quartered in children's bedrooms, incest, and widespread inbreeding. The report caused a scandal, and the governor of New Jersey, James T. Fiedler, visited the barrens and asked the legislature to isolate the area from the rest of the state. What the hell, Joan? What the hell? Did you not get a treat? You got a treat for walking. All right, I'm going to put you. I spent like 15 minutes getting her camera ready, and this is the thanks I get. All right, just sit here and look cute. Anyhow, this 1913 report from Elizabeth Kite seems to be a lot of how the negatives of the Pineys got started. Like, you know, you got incest in here, you got all sorts of things, a race of imbeciles, criminals, and defectives. In later years, Kite told an interviewer, "Nothing would give me greater pleasure than correct the idea that was unfortunately be given to the newspapers regarding the Pines. I think it was the most terrible calamity that the newspaper quickly took the term and gave it the degenerate sting." So even back then, you've got media outlets sort of taking a little parcel of information and running with it because it causes a sensation and sells newspapers. Are you quite done? Are you quite done being a little pest? But the one thing I wanted to tell you about, and I may do this as a video, where is it? At the Lotus Eaters at some point, but this is St. John's Episcopal Church, and it recently celebrated its 300th year anniversary, which I think is kind of cool. It's in Salem, and it was founded in 1722, and it wasn't really, I mean, it was founded in 72022, but when they say the church, they don't mean the actual building. They mean like the idea of the church, the congregation, you know, the we're all going to pray here kind of thing. So because the church is more than just an edifice. So then they built the church, and this is the original church here in a painting. I think you can see it here, little tiny painting. I don't think it doesn't blow up. Then they sent to London for a reverend, and the first reverend was directly from London. Keep in mind, this is 1722, 1724 by the time he arrives. And so then the Revolutionary War happened about 50 years later, and the church structure was heavily damaged by the English troops in their raid on the area in 1778, probably because many of the members of the congregation were patriots. The English commander, Colonel Charles Mawhood, posted a list of Salem men prescribed as rebels, 3/4 of whom were Episcopalians, and that is an Episcopalian church, St. John's. So then, after that, after the war was over, the church, I guess they tried to fix it as best they could, but it started to fall into decay, and it looked like the whole place was going to shutter, and that would have been it for the church. But then they hung on until 1838, and they raised the money and built a new church, and there it is there. And then they built in 1880 an extension to the church, and this is the way it looks today. So it's pretty fantastic. That's a nice looking church, I gotta say. And this is in Salem. You can see the old graveyard right next door. This is from Google Maps. Little damage there on the fence. Looks like somebody hit it with a car. So that's pretty cool, I think. 300-year-old church in the United States. Not a lot of these. Not a lot of these at all. I mean, you can go back to the 1600s in some locations in the United States, but, you know, it's not much sooner. Go back maybe another 50 years. Maybe. I mean, what do you got? The Pilgrims at Plymouth Rocks. It's like 1662. Not a lot of places being built at that time. So 1722 is about, I mean, there are earlier places in New Jersey, but that's pretty early. It's pretty early. And it's in Salem, and that's along the Delaware River, so you can understand why they built it there. Would have been easier to get there than, say, over land. They're building stuff on the coast a lot because then you can move around a lot easier. A lot easier to move by boat than it is by horseback over, you know, areas of woods that aren't exactly, you know, passable all the time, especially if it rains, you know. So really nice looking church. I kind of dig it, and I kind of dig the history here. So a lot of good history. Some of the stuff from, I mean, this is from 1939, and some later pictures. Pretty standard stuff after a certain point, but it's really amazing that any church in the United States has survived that long, considering what they're doing to churches these days. And look, I'm not a religious guy. I'm not Episcopalian, even when I was kind of mildly religious. But you know, I like the history that goes along with churches. You know, there's something to be said for them. They're not completely useless. They're not completely evil. Let's just settle down, atheist. There is something to them. You know, there are plenty of people who go to church and that are in the church. They're fine. They're fine. The vast majority of people are, I think. So I don't think there's any reason to be anti-church or tear this thing down or anything like that. So good. Congratulations on St. John's for lasting 300 years. May you last 300 more. And that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for more bass takes. Don't get more bass than that, does it, Joe? We got a Hollywoke hot take and a news blast. Make sure you check out my various links. I just added a new signing. I'll be doing Nerdfest in August. That's August 21st. But the next signing is January 9th at Moods Farm. Moods Farm. It's a blueberry festival. That's July 9th. So Google that or go to the link below for my book tour. And we'll see you tomorrow.